My
Okay, now
my
I
parents have a
understand.
daycare, so I can't be there anymore.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait, that's amazing. Like for kids?
for kids, yeah. They both work to take care of kids, and they love it. It's a pretty tiring job, but it's a good job in my opinion.
That's amazing. And so you're four boys, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah,
So it looks like your mother misses the old times of having four little kids roaming around.
yeah, exactly. Although my brothers have kids of their own now, so and they have girls, so
Wow.
now it's like my parents get another run at the whole childhood thing.
Amazing. Wow. Huge respect. Huge respect. Okay, Hera, we ready? You're good to go?
Excellent, good to go.
Let's do this. All right, hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Majmour,
And I'm Hera.
and this is episode 38 of the Town Center, your podcast dedicated to all things Age of Empires. In today's show, Hera's dominant run at the top of our game is very much alive as he brings home yet another S tier trophy. Then big drama hits our scene once more as we're now reeling from not only a gamble scandal, but also from a cheating scandal. And as always, we'll keep you up to date with regards to some pretty juicy announcements and currently ongoing tournaments. If you enjoy our show, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you prefer to listen to us on Spotify, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. All right, Hera, you're looking pretty fresh, I gotta say. I was expected to see you totally jet lagged. You're looking pretty fresh.
I actually am extremely jet lagged, but this is like a good part of it. It's 7:30 a.m. and it's like I'm feeling good. It's like midday for me basically, so
Wow,
feeling good.
amazing. Amazing. We really appreciate that. All right, so you were obviously out, enjoying the fruits of your labor after winning the LingYuan Cup. So how much did you come across all the drama that has been now surrounding? Did you hear about Beery? Did you hear about
I heard about everything. I think it was
all
impossible
right.
to avoid.
Okay.
A few cases it came like honestly in all cases it came to me. I was doing some Q&As on Instagram, and then I heard about like the gambling situation, looked into it
Hmm.
myself. I'd heard about it prior, and I
Hmm.
also stumbled upon it in the tournament itself in the LingYuan Cup the last day. And then the Beerus situation, I heard about that yesterday.
Great.
This kind of information travels really fast.
Very, very fast. And the Beery situation, to be clear, has been announced just a couple of hours ago as we're recording this. So it's very, very much fresh.
For me, that situation was absolutely insane. So, settle in, grab a snack or two. This is going to be a fun episode, I think.
I love it. That's exactly it. Okay, but before we get to all of that, it's been about 10 days ago that the latest S tier tournament came to a close. That was the LingYuan Cup in China, and the results were pretty unsurprising if you ask me. So Hera takes his 13th S tier 1v1 tournament in a row. Last time you didn't win an S tier tournament, Hera, I probably remember it, was the Titans League 2 2023. So that's a long time ago. Larry came in second after losing the final 4-2 to Hera, and then Viper and Mr. Yo shared third and fourth places. Interesting to note that these were also the 4 players who were invited to the tournament, so this, you could say, means sort of that everybody performed as expected, I would say. Now, one interesting thing to me here, Hera, I heard you say this is one of your top 3 most favorite lands. And I actually looked it up. You've been to 12 lands, which means top 3 actually means something, you know? If
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
only like 4 lands and this is one of the top 3, no big deal. But yeah, so what made it so special to you?
Yeah, I think it was most like the surprise factor of not knowing what I was going into. I didn't know what to expect, and then everything was way better than like any kind of expectations I could have had. The player treatment was incredible in my opinion. I think Mr.
Mhm.
Yo and the organization there did a great job to make the players feel like heard, all of our needs met. Feedback was taken and implemented immediately. The Chinese fans were incredible. I have some things I want to show.
Oh,
Um,
please do. Please do.
this is just what I have in arm's reach, just way more of some gifts that they gave me. So that's like, for example, a black duck, which is what they call me. I got an Age of Empires 2 symbol here. I
Wow.
got keycaps for my keyboard. And then, well, this is not a gift, but it's just a player badge that I keep. And I got a few more gifts there as well. So the Chinese fans were showering us with gifts, like left and
What,
right.
what
So
question I
generous.
have? Did they think about your keyboard? Did they actually look up what your keyboard is just to make sure that the keys actually fit your keyboard?
I have no idea. I haven't used
Okay.
them yet, but I will. I
That
will
would
try
be
them.
next level. That would be next level. I hope they did do that because that would be incredible.
Yeah, I think they should be like pretty generic, but nonetheless like super cool.
Mhm.
In terms of like the fans, also the energy from the fans was incredible. The venue was solid. Being in China for the first time was an amazing experience. There's really only positive things to say. I was able to chill with guys like freaking Andy, Sebastian, ACCM, guys I don't see very often, of course. The usual faces that make pretty much every LAN. You got Leary, Hart, Viper, Yo. Just a fantastic experience. Pretty much zero negatives besides some small stuff. And,
which we're going to get into, if you don't mind.
No
Obviously,
problem.
going into all those things. So from what I'm hearing for you, so not necessarily the games, the competition itself was top 3 in terms of how close it was or something like that. It was more like the surrounding stuff, you being in China, seeing Chinese fan for the first time and all those things.
Yeah,
would
exactly.
That be correct?
The LAN experience. I think the tournament games were also fantastic, but it's not something I judge when I give like a personal score of the LAN. But yeah, the LAN was absolutely incredible. I had a great time, and I hope to see a LingYuan too. So if there's if I can say, if my word means anything, I will highly suggest Microsoft to support them for LingYuan 2. I met the sponsor, I met the team, and they seem really motivated. They're already planning the second edition, by the way. So
are we talking about LY or?
Yeah, like LingYuan, like the company LingYuan, which is the sponsor of the team LY. They're already planning a second edition, which is super exciting. So from what it's worth, I think they should absolutely go for it, and I hope Microsoft can support them with the prize pool once again.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, always interesting to know. Anything you would want them to change? Anything about the organizational, about the logistics?
I don't think there's any feedback I can give, because here's the thing. Mr. Yo, on
food?
day one of the LAN, he goes, "This is all shit. We need to do it way better." Before the games even start, Mr. Yo comes into me. He's like, "Yo, the sponsor hates it. We all hate it. It's complete garbage. We're going to do it in another city. It's going to be like higher price pool. The sponsor's going to invest way more." I'm like, "Bro, we haven't even started." The event, by the way, was fantastic. So I don't even know what he was talking about. The standards they set for themselves are very high, apparently. So I can only imagine what they're going to come up with the second edition.
Okay, from a viewer's perspective, what I'll say, my first impression of the whole thing was very competently run. There's nothing that you can say this was incredibly bad or anything. It just felt a little bit, from the production aspect of it, felt a little bit bare bones. You have the games, you have the interviews, which are like, okay, they have to be there. And this is not much more. You have the interviews that were a little bit awkward because they were being repeated all the time, So if I think about the stuff that Noble Apartment Cup has done, with all, the little ads that were funny, or the little segments in between with quizzes and stuff like that. If you think about the history segments during RedBull, I feel like we didn't have a whole lot of that. So that would be, from a viewer's perspective, something that I would love to have in the future. But again, competently run. Nothing that it can say that really stands out as being horrible. So I definitely agree with you there, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear it from a viewer perspective, because I basically had zero viewer perspective myself. Right. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that. I can also add that, like, I think the translating to Chinese back to English was also like a challenge for them. Just made it made every segment basically twice as long and a bit more awkward. For example, it's just an extra layer, an extra challenge that they have to deal with. Most likely.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing this tournament is certainly going to be remembered for is the Hera versus ACCA game on Bedouins, Spanish versus Berbers. It's now officially the longest professional Age of Empires match. 4 hours, 4 hour 20 in game, if I'm not mistaken. Talk us a little bit through the game. When was it clear to you, this shit is not going to end? This is going to take forever.
That was a phenomenal game. I will say, I think not just the length of it, but also the game and how it develops was also super exciting. Like, you saw, like, he went like forward. I had missionaries, and then I was in like a Vil all in after his monk rush. It was a crazy situation, crazy game start to finish. I think the highlight for me was him asking for the pee break. I think that was so
that
funny.
Was so funny.
So ACCM. It was so respectful. It just, the crowd loved it. The people at home loved it as well. But I think when I realized the game was going to be like a 4 hour banger was basically when I wasn't able to win the game with the Bomber Tower push. Like, I don't know. I think we were at like 2 hours or so, maybe 2 hours and a half at that point, and I wasn't able to win the game with all my gold, and I had to take the relics back. I'm like, yeah, this is a wood game for sure, because there's no other way to win. But yeah, I think the game was fantastic. A funny little story, actually. When I went up to the bathroom after ACCM, a few of the fans caught me on the way in.
Mhm.
or way back, and they were like, "Yo, this game is absolutely epic! Like, we're gonna make history right here." So they were
Mhm.
like calling that this is gonna be like a historical game, and it turned out to be, which is super cool. So loved everything about that game, and I think ACM played a fantastic one as well.
That's that's gonna be so exhausting as a player. So I do wonder when you're 2 hours in, which again, to people who are not too familiar with Age of Empires, a 2 hour game is basically unheard of, let alone a 4 hour game. So when you're 2 hours in, you're probably so done. I mean, mentally and physically, I imagine. What are the steps you're going through in your head? So what needs to happen next? How do I win this game? What's going through your head when the game is already at this point?
Well, the funny thing is, as a long game, when it comes to like pro player competition, you don't have a lot of time to think about things because throughout all like the time that passes, we're almost always fighting. There's not a single point in the game where we're just doing nothing and waiting 30
Yeah, let me
minutes.
think about
Yeah, exactly. Like you see in a lot of beginner games, and like I remember when me and my brothers used to play back in the day, it was 6 hour games left and right because we're both just chilling, setting up the base, making things look nice. But in a pro setting, especially on a tournament stage, you're basically fighting nonstop, trading trash units, fighting for wood lines,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. So there's really not a lot of time to think. But I would say that game was one of the most physically exhausting ones I've ever played. Like genuinely, the stage was hot. I was getting flustered at some points. ACM was like microing every skirmisher. Like it was a really difficult and physically demanding game. But I just kept
Mm.
thinking he's feeling it too. So
Right,
you just
right.
gotta go. You just gotta
So I
go.
guess you're just thinking, what's next? You're not
Yeah,
thinking 10 steps ahead. You're thinking maybe 2 steps ahead or something and
yeah,
playing what's
something
in
like
front of
that.
you.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah,
fighting too
okay.
much. Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing, amazing. Okay, so yeah, this game featured everything. There were onager cuts to deprive the opponent of wood. I mean, people definitely need to give it a watch, even if you're just jumping a little bit because of 4 hours. So it's got time for that. Okay, something very awkward, bizarre also happened to you. And again, I'd love to hear all these. This is now an extra thing, didn't happen at the tournament, outside the tournament. Something incredibly awkward. You explain it best, of course. What we heard is that you got lost in the woods, literally running away from someone who's apparently threatening you. Again, if you wouldn't mind going through the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll run you through it again. The story sounds incredibly fake, by the way. This is just, but the only thing I can say is that if I were to make up a story, I wouldn't make it up like this. So basically, what happened is I went
You
for a
would make
walk
it more
before.
believable. Yeah, you would make it more believable.
100% exactly, like this is not believable. So I went for a walk before my set. I played in the evening, so I went to go for like a 1 hour walk. Weather was nice, extended it a little bit, not too much.
Mhm.
Probably walked like 45 minutes from the hotel. Again, I'm not in some barren wasteland, I'm in the city, so I feel safe.
That's what I wondered when I heard it. Yeah.
The thing is, we're not in like this downtown city. We're like, there's Beijing has 5 rings, and we're like on the outside of 4 or 5. So we're pretty like in the outskirts, but it's still city like. I felt rather safe. I see people around me. So I went for a walk, 45 minutes in one direction, going through, nothing, no plans, nothing, just enjoying the time and going for a walk. As I head back, I'm trying to take the same path that I took roughly, just because, that's just a good thing to do. And bear in mind, Google Maps, which is what I was using, does not work in Beijing. It's not updated correctly.
I
So
assume you didn't know that before.
I didn't know that. I found out afterwards. So as I put my hotel address back in, just as a guide, I knew the way more or less. Put
Mhm.
the hotel address back in. It gave me an address near a highway. Didn't think much of it because I don't know the city. So I was like, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, on my way back, this is where the weirdness happens. I stop at a light and I look to my left, and there's a Chinese man, like 25-ish, so like around my age, looks at me and says, hello. I'm antisocial AF. I'm not going to talk to any stranger in a foreign country. So I say hello, nothing more. And
Mhm.
then he says, we start walking. He says, where are you from? I said, Canada. Nothing more. And then again, he speaks broken English. He says, I want to eat your dick. He says this flat out.
What?
And
What?
I know. And my reaction, I literally said, what? Not like what, like I beg your pardon, like what are you talking about? So I said, what? And
Wait, so
it
this
just
guy doesn't know who you are. So it's not a fan who follows
nothing.
age. Okay, okay.
No fan. At least I don't think so. Like I highly doubt it, first of all.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think so. He says that flat out. It takes me a second to process what he said. And then I decide I have to run because I'm not going to stick around. Obviously, it's a public area, but I don't know what this guy's doing. This is already crossing all kinds of boundaries. So I just run straight. All right. As I start running, he goes, wait for me. So I was like, okay, I can't like look back or anything. I run to the end of the street. Then I look back. He didn't follow me. All right.
Okay.
But as I ran to the end of the street, I went away from my path. So no problem. I just went like, to another path. And I said, okay, I have the GPS. I can't go back because he might still be around there. And I'm very paranoid of this kind of things. Like, is he alone? Does he have multiple
Mm.
people? There's motorcycles that are very easy to come by in
Mhm.
Beijing. So I'm on foot. I'm better off going away from this guy. That's in my mind. I think it's a pretty logical reaction as well. So anyway, I go off the path, and it's not a big deal. I have the GPS, or so I thought. So I start going towards the hotel, and now I end up in some kind of shanty town. All right, and this is the part of the story that really gets me worried, because I'm a white guy in a Chinese only part of town. There's no tourists here, and it's a rough part of town. All right, there's
Okay.
like, outdoor grill, tattoo shop, laundry back and forth. Like, it's a rough part of town. Fair enough. I go straight through it, and I end up in a dead end. And I'm in like some guy's backyard at this point. So then I sprint out again, obviously, because I'm in some guy's literal backyard. Because again, the GPS told me there's a road there. So I
Mhm.
run out, and then the GPS is telling me go through this little gated area, which is like the wood area.
Mhm.
Go through it a little bit, 5 minutes in, and then you're back on the main road, straight to the hotel. I said, I'm 15 minutes away. Let me just go in. And what's the worst that can happen? I couldn't get out of there. The GPS kept telling me it's 10 minutes away, it's 10 minutes away, it's 10 minutes away, because the GPS is giving
Dude,
me
it's
wrong
gonna be so
information.
panic-inducing. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I was super panicked, and I was going through the woods. Anyway, long story short, I do this for an hour and a half. I'm completely lost. I end up having to call Mr. Yo. Not an emergency. I need help. Someone come get me. Everyone starts laughing at first, because like they think I'm trolling, but I was like, it's not a joke at all. I ended up having to jump a fence and run up a huge hill, basically to the highway, and wait for help to come. And I ripped my jeans, I ripped my jacket,
I
not my
saw
jeans, my
pictures.
pants.
But is that something that Mr. Yo told you to do? Go up there and wait for me there? Or how do you tell Mr. Yo where you are? How do they
No, so
find you?
they sent the admin or one of the translators, and Hart, actually, shout out Hart. He was, he was kind of a legend there, communicating and whatnot. But yeah, it was the only way out. So I'm in a gated community, completely gated. I'm
Yeah, but
basically in the
how do
woods.
you describe people where you are? How do people find you? Are you telling them,
I
this looks like this looks like that?
I basically sent the location, and then I also
Uh-huh.
sent a picture of the highway after I climbed up, because again, it's because I'm near the highway. He at least knows roughly where I
They
am.
recognize it. Okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
within it was a long wait, to be honest. At this point, I'm dehydrated and I'm mentally gone. But they came 30 minutes later, and honestly, best ending to that story possible. Like
Hmm.
that could have went so much worse in
Wow.
so many different ways. But yeah,
Okay.
craziest
Wow.
experience in a
Wow.
while for sure.
What you know what I'm thinking? I have no clue. I mean, I assume, are people allowed to display like gay affection in China in public? Is that allowed?
I have no idea.
I don't. I would assume not, but I don't know. And
Yeah,
what I'm thinking is the spot where you initially were is maybe some famous spot where gay people meet or something like that. And like I was
I don't
thinking,
think so.
if you're there, then it's because I don't know. I'm speculating.
I was at like a four like lane intersection. It was like middle of the city. Like I really don't think so. It felt so surreal. It felt so
Okay.
random, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's the best way
Dude,
I can
yeah,
say.
glad it worked for the better. You still play the game after that. You win that
Yes.
game, of course. So it all went for the better, as you say.
Yeah.
Okay, so other thing I'd like to discuss as well is we have an instance of Vivi potentially cheating.
Hmm.
And I say potentially because I guess it's on the eye of the listener or on the ear of the listener, if we're not. So this is what happened. Vivi was caught with the official stream open on his phone during a game. And I believe it was during Nomad, no less. Which, it's pretty important to see where your opponent puts his TC in and stuff like that and docking. Okay, so the admins explained what happened here was that players, they had to have their phones on stage because the PCs that they were playing on are affected by the so-called Chinese firewall that blocks a lot of links, so links for the drafts, so links for a lot of stuff in Age of Empires 2, but phones are not affected by that. So that's why people had to have the phones, right? So players were using phones for drafts, communication on Discord and stuff like that. Now, that doesn't excuse the behavior, obviously, but to me, at least, sounds plausible. So I wondered for you and for the players, how big of a deal was this? Were people pissed at Vivi? How can this be? Or people are like, it's just Vivi, classic Vivi. What was the vibe like?
So I actually only heard about it afterwards, but the vibe was that it was mostly like almost guaranteed to be an accident. So here's the context.
Mm-hmm.
The tournament was run primarily on Vivi's channel. Vivi always has his phone to access his chat, and he needed his phone to access the draft, which is on day one, you needed the phones. Afterwards, they got us a solution.
Hmm.
So with all of those things in mind, it's to me like clear as day that most likely, can't say for sure, but most likely it was an accident. He had a chat open from before the game and then just left it there and then just hopped in because that's how he streams. It was very, second nature for him. He's in China. He doesn't feel like he's in a tournament. And that's kind of what I feel about the situation. But that being said, the management, of course, and the admins were extremely, extremely upset at the situation. They treated it as if it was cheating. They cut his prize pool by 50%.
Hmm. Hmm.
They probably would have given that a game loss, but he ended up losing 3-0 anyways. So yeah, it was treated as if, and like the sponsors obviously very upset because this is on day one. They want to show professionalism. This is giving a bad look. But yeah, I think he was punished as if he was cheating. I personally don't think he was cheating. I think it was an accident. But yeah, that's the situation essentially.
Hmm. Okay, makes sense. That was my feeling too. I buy the explanation from the
Mhm.
admins, but again, it's up to people to decide how bad this actually is.
I will say though, like I think it's good that he got the punishment because
Mm.
you just can't leave it up to like an explanation most of the time. Like if he could have had information, you just have to punish it. So I think in the end, Vivi obviously lost 50% of his prize pool. He's pretty bummed about that, but it is what it is.
Hmm. Otherwise, it invites people doing that
Exactly.
on purpose.
Exactly.
Even if in the case of Vivi, it probably wasn't on purpose. Okay. So before we move on to the next topic, one thing I'd be curious to hear your impression on, Hera. So when somebody has been as dominant as you have been, the hope for the people in the community is that all the people who are close to you in level, by virtue of the fact that they're constantly losing to you, they're hopefully learning from the mistakes that they make against you, that you're punishing their mistakes and they're learning from those mistakes and therefore ideally closing the gap to you. I kind of feel right now that it's actually the opposite is happening. What feels to me like it's happening is like people have lost to you so many times that when they go into a match with you, they're like, okay, I have no chance anyway, so who gives a fuck? And it kind of looks like the gap is actually widening instead of closing. Does this resonate with you? Do you feel like this might be happening right now?
Yeah, so regarding the gap between me and the other players, I mean, I personally think like the general feeling that I get is that it's a gap of dedication and it's a gap of like hunger. So I feel like I'm hungry for whatever reason. Maybe I'm the guy in the wrong. I don't see the same hunger that I bring to the table from my peers. I see them in the practice room. I see their I see their practice. I see their energy. It honestly, it doesn't feel like anyone's there with a lot of ambition. I don't know why that's the case. I see a lot of ambition from the younger, like the 10 to 4
Hmm.
brings a
Hmm.
lot of like energy
The
usually.
Lewises
Yeah,
and
Lewis, Sebastian, exactly. The next gen. They bring a lot of energy to the table, but they're just not there yet. So they lose out to the more experienced players. But it seems like the more experienced players are just comfortable where they are, and they are just happy staying there. For whatever reason, I I don't know. I love to just do the best that I can. Maybe I feel like I've got a lot at stake, or I'm a competitive person by nature, so I just try my best every time. I don't even practice that much, to be honest. Like at this tournament, I didn't practice a whole lot, but it just feels like I'm like thinking about it when I sleep, when I wake up, and I just don't see the same level of like commitment from the others. And I think that's the biggest gap because skill wise, when you look at guys like Leary, Mysterio, and Viper specifically, I'm not really much better than them skill wise. At least I don't think so. I think it's a dedication gap, if anything.
Okay. So I'd like, as always, to report on the viewership that we had for the tournament. Then this is obviously a special tournament because we don't have any access to the Chinese numbers, and I do wonder if Microsoft is going to have access to the Chinese numbers because what Mysterio has told us once here is that the number that you see in this Douyu TV or whatever the site is called is actually fake. Everybody knows it's fake. So I do wonder if Microsoft is ever going to have like a clear picture of how many people were watching this tournament. In any case, in the international scene, that means not including the Chinese numbers, Chinese platforms, we had a 25,000 viewership peak, which sounds to me pretty good considering the time, considering when the games were streamed. But again, it's a very, very incomplete picture, of course. If you were to compare only this 25,000 to the other S tier tournaments, this would be very low. Usually you have something like 40 to 50,000 viewership peak, with RedBull probably having more. But again, these are the numbers. Make of it what you will, basically. And just before leaving the topic and moving on to something a bit more spicy, I want to say Lewis casting was amazing.
Yes.
Unexpectedly good. I really want to say, and I feel like this is a sentiment that a lot of people felt listening to the stream. I don't think people were expecting him to be this engaging and this good. Did you get a chance to listen a little bit to him casting?
Yeah, so when I first was looking for a caster, Lewis was a guy that was like very eager to do it. So I obviously give him access to my channel. I put a lot more trust than I ever thought I'd put into Lewis, to be honest. And I had no idea, what was going to come of it. I just knew that he was waking up at 6 a.m. his time, or even a bit
Mhm.
earlier, like 5 a.m. He was going to cast 10-hour days, 5 days in a row. That's what he signed up for, and that's what he did. But on top of that, he did a great job. Every
Mhm.
day, I'd watch a little bit at the end, and I sent him messages on WhatsApp. I was like, "Wow, Lewis, this is amazing! Like, no joke, this is fantastic. Keep it up." And
Mhm.
I think he did amazing. So yeah, big shout out to him. And you can find
Yeah.
those videos on my YouTube channel if you want to take a listen.
Right. I should have made it clear, obviously. So Lewis was casting on Hera's channel upon his request. And people are keeping all the time, how much is Hera paying you? I don't know why people are so interested in these things. People cannot let it go. I saw like so many times. Yeah, I thought it was amazing. He actually asked me to co-cast once with me. I couldn't do it when he asked me. And then I was like, actually, dude, you're doing such a good job alone that I didn't offer him myself. I was legitimately enjoying it, just listening
Yeah.
to him do his thing. So I thought it was amazing. Okay, Hera, let's move on to some gambling. Let's move on to
Okay.
some juicier stuff. So, if you've been under a rock, so this is what was happened very recently in our scene. So, a few weeks ago, a gambling website has entered the scene. So, they host show matches between pro players, best of ones, and they give viewers the opportunity to bet with crypto on the outcome of those matches. The players involved in the show matches were paid to play those games. And from what I heard from several people, the winner would get $75 per match and the loser $25. Then each player involved in this promotion, in this partnership, would be able to play 2 show matches per day. I believe so. You can sort of imagine how the values could quickly start to add up to a decent amount of money, especially if you're someone who's living in a country who does not have like very expensive living standards. And then all the other pros who were part of the partnership but were not playing would act as sort of referees to make sure that nobody's throwing matches and things like that. So, Hera, you've made your position on this crystal clear many times, even before this whole thing affair came along. But just for those of you who might not have heard it, if you don't mind, could you articulate your position on the whole thing?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a very nuanced topic. There's a lot to
Mhm.
discuss for sure. I don't want to jump in and say, I'm 100% here and there's no other valid opinion. But what I will say is that I see gambling as a very dangerous thing. I think it's not like other, things like, for example, gaming or like fast food that could be harmful and could not. Gambling, when it sucks you in, it's very hard to recover from that. It's very addictive. When you lose, you want to try to make up for your losses. When you win, you get a sense of dopamine that just keeps you going and it just gets you hooked. So it's the kind of thing that once you get into it, it's very hard to stop. Um,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Hera. The thing about gambling and why it's so pernicious is that the body doesn't tell you when to stop.
mhm.
When you're drunk, you start throwing up and you stop, right? Ideally. If you're about to overdose or something, you stop taking drugs. But when you're betting, your body doesn't tell you anything. There's no one, if you're alone, there's nothing that tells you to stop. I think
Very
that's one of
interesting.
the parts
Yeah.
that makes it so pernicious. Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
I never thought of it. That's very interesting. But yeah, the idea is that it's very dangerous to have gambling around for a particular individual. Now, obviously, there's a lot of gambling elsewhere, but in my opinion, for the streamers in this scene, for Age of Empires 2, which is at the end of the day what we can control, right? Um, we as streamers have a responsibility of what we promote to our viewers. Like that's just a fact. You can't just promote something to viewers and then say, "Oh, do what you will," because as a promoter of that thing, you are directly exposing them to it. And when it comes like something like betting on AoE2 matches, um, it's going to start in just these best of one show matches, and then it's going to 100% go into bigger show matches, go into the tournaments. It's going to start taking over the scene, so it's going to become very accessible, and it's the kind of thing that snowballs. If the gambling starts picking up and people are jumping in, I think it can snowball to the point where it gets completely out of hand. So
Mhm.
my position on it is that you should completely have a 100% stance against gambling, because you don't want to have this entryway or this like middle ground where people get sucked in on an individual level, and then as a community, it starts to become very accessible, and then it's just hard to get out. So I think you want to have 100% stance against it to prevent it from gaining any traction.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, in this particular instance with a website, which I'm not going to name, I think the discussion is pretty much over once it becomes clear that the site was operating illegally in a lot of the countries where where the vast majority of the streamers and the audience lives. So this particular website has a license issued by the government of the autonomous island of Anjouan. And it'd be totally forgiven for not having heard about it, which is, surprise, surprise, not valid in the EU, not valid in a lot of countries. Now, once that becomes clear, some people canceled their partnerships with the website. Some teams banned their players from participating, though I believe the site is still up. It was up a couple of days ago when I checked. So again, in my opinion, when it comes to this particular website, the discussion is clear. It's over. This should not be promoted. We're talking about something that it's illegal. So the much more interesting discussion to me, though, Hera, would be, what if we're talking about a website that is operating legally? We do know that gambling is legal in a lot of the countries we're talking about now, though heavily regulated. What if we're talking about a website that promotes gambling, offers gambling, but is legal? Would that be okay? From the perspectives that I read from the community that seems to be very much against it, my feeling is that a lot of people would still have the exact same feelings in saying that this would not be tolerated, even if it's legal gambling. Will that change something for you?
So for me personally, I can say that wouldn't change anything. I would 100% still be against it either way. However, that's just a personal opinion, and the reason why it's hard to discuss this with the thousands of others is that everyone has their own personal opinion. So it's going to become a judgment call when something is legal. It becomes hard to just say it's 100% no. So it becomes up to each individual, their moral values, the pros and cons that they see.
Exactly.
So it becomes a much more gray area. So what I would say is, for myself, I would still not go for it. However, I think that a lot of people will be tempted to go for it. I think a lot of people will be against it. It'll spark up a lot of discussion. And I think it will have some kind of split down the center where you have some people for, some people neutral, and some people are against. The tricky thing here is that esports in general has been kind of not run by, but fueled by gambling websites,
Absolutely.
by casinos. It's no secret. A big portion of the esports business is decided or ran or fueled by that. So a lot of people think it's just unavoidable for Age of Empires 2, and that it's bound to take the same route if it wants to survive. Now, in my personal take here is that we've been going so far without having it, and I don't think that we need it. I think we have external sponsors coming in that are a lot cleaner and a lot more consistent that we can rely on. We have community support that's fantastic that will continue pushing us forward. And I think the future is bright regardless of the gambling, without it. So that's kind of where I would like to see the scene continue to go.
Okay, so here's my take on the whole thing. And I agree with a lot what you say. So I personally was never tempted to gamble. I never felt the urge. I was never curious about it. I believe I've gambled once in my life. It was with my dad. We went to a casino. I believe I just turned 18 or something. I put $20 in a slot machine. I got like $150 back. And my dad is like, okay, we're out of here. We made money. We're out of here. And we were gone. We were there 20 minutes and we were gone. And I think he was trying to protect me from that, right?
Yeah,
you had a very positive experience, but not even that. It's actually pushed me to try it more or anything. I was just never curious about it. So if you ask me, I think gambling is stupid. I think if you want to spend money, or if you want to try to make some money, there are smarter ways of doing it. If you want to have fun with your money, there are much more fun ways of doing it, in my opinion. So I agree with everything you said. What I'm torn about, and I'm really not sure how to feel about this, is that I cannot, again, as long as we're talking about something that's legal here, we're not talking about the illegal one. We're not talking about a hypothetical company that's legal. I cannot bring myself to judge too harshly someone who does not live by my values. I have these values. You have them. I agree with you. I have a hard time telling other people how they should live their lives as long as they're not breaking the law. And again, from a lot of the posts that I've seen, feels to me like it very often crosses this line, in my opinion. So just to give you a concrete example of what I'm talking about, I think it's totally fine. You go to Reddit and you say, I cannot support streamer X, Y, Z anymore because he's now entered this partnership with XYZ company. Totally understandable. Repeat it on Reddit as often as you want. But it's when you go from that to like, I don't think anyone should ever be able to partner with a gambling website. I think people should be banned from Microsoft tournaments if they're partnering with gambling. This is when we start telling other people how they should live their lives. And this is what I feel a little bit iffy about. I don't know. Does this resonate with you a little bit, or am I completely off here?
Oh, so firstly, I do want to say that I think the community did a fantastic job on this one in particular. So this one in particular was illegal and had all kinds of other, shady things about it.
This one is really no discussion, in my opinion. It's illegal. And it's done.
Yeah. I will say, like, the community voicing their opinions about that, I commend them a lot for that. And to be honest, it wasn't really done so much in a grab the pitchforks and attack this person. It was done more in like a constructive way for the most part, at least from what I've seen. And I think that was a really good thing from the overwhelming part of the community. So I actually commend the people who spoke up against it and kind of made a proper change to what I think is a better outcome of staying away from this website. And as you said, this one was an easy one in the grand scheme of things. Now, when you talk about something that's legal and it's just in the same realm of the gambling and the betting, I think it's obviously really difficult to say. Don't, like, nobody should ever do this. Obviously, kind of similar to what you said. At the end of the day, everyone will have like their own set of morals and whatnot.
Right.
But what I will say is that looking at it from a logical perspective, if a site came in that is only about Age of Empires 2 betting, all right, the only way they make money is if the Age of Empires 2 viewers are betting significant amounts into this website, or there's a significant number of viewers that are betting into this website. That's the only way that this gambling website will actually succeed. They don't have any other sources of revenue besides maybe like advertisements, which only works if you have a large amount of users anyway. So the gambling website will never succeed unless it captures the attention and the support of the AV2 community, and it's going to be directly funded by our viewers. So my take on this is that instead of promoting something like that and having our viewers donate to someone else in a non, like, it's not a donation, it's a gambling relationship. So they're gambling their money away, and whether one viewer wins, another viewer loses. So there's always people winning and losing on both sides. And then the money is being sent to someone else who's not really part of the community, who's just kind of running this gambling business at the expense of our viewers. I think that creates a situation where it's not the best way to have our community run. In my opinion, our community is best run when creators are, putting something into the community, either organizing matches or creating content or whatever. And then the viewers can choose to support those creators as they've been doing. And I think that's a much better way to have the viewers engaged with content than having their money go to a third-party betting area and then having that guy decide what he does with the money. Mm-hmm. So that's, like, from a purely like logical perspective, I would say that gambling website, legal or not, is bad for the AV2 community simply because it just funnels the viewers' money somewhere else, and it does so in a non-constructive way. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I'll say about that is that the community is very generous as is. So I think that, without having to resort to taking money from, the gambling sponsors or whatnot, you can just bring value yourself to the scene. You can just put in extra hours, bring value, and the support is there. Like, we genuinely have one of the most generous communities out there, that if you really put in effort and give something to the community, you're going to get something back one way or another. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that's the route that players should go to if they want to earn a little extra and not go towards the gambling sponsor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to convince me, and I don't think that's what you're trying to do. I agree 100% with all that. It's just, to me, it's this feeling of uneasiness when I start telling other people how they should live there. Maybe it's an upbringing thing, I don't know. Because here's one of my fears, and I understand this is a little bit of a slippery slope, though I did hear this argument made in the other direction with the gambling too a couple of times, because this is what could happen next. I saw Hart bringing this up, and I'd already thought about it too, so I think it's very pertinent. So you remember the rumor that Age of Empires, I think it was actually started by you, that Age of Empires 2 could be part of the Esports World Cup
Yeah.
in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
You remember that rumor?
I
Was
heard
it last?
rumors last year. Yeah,
Was
and
it
I'm hearing
last year?
rumors this year as well. So who knows?
Okay, dude, perfect. Imagine this is going to happen next year. You can bet your ass, or not your ass, but you know where I'm going with this, that a lot of the same outrage is going to be present. So what happens then? Are we going to tell players they're not allowed to participate in an S tier tournament? Probably is going to be an S tier tournament. And what comes next? They're not allowed to wear a certain clothing brand. Just, you see where I'm going with this. Where do we draw the line? Is it at gambling? Is just at gambling you feel like it's particularly bad, and it stops there? You see what I'm trying to go with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, obviously, like the main issue that you have, and I think a lot of people have, is that you can't, obviously dictate how people will, make their own decisions.
Right.
I think the viewers always have the idea of, or the power to, make a post or make, express themselves that I won't support this person if they support that, or I don't support this.
And I think they should do it. I
exactly.
support that 100%. Yeah.
They can voice their opinions. When it comes to something like the Esports World Cup, I totally understand where people are coming from. There's a lot of criticism towards the organization there, and just the political situation and whatnot. I think it's a bit different than the gambling situation personally, because in that case, it's going to be a major tournament hosted for the community. So I think the upsides are a lot more visible, and the viewers' money directly is not being touched. I think this is a big deal, because the viewers themselves are not subject to something that's going to put them at risk. It's like either you watch it or you don't.
Interesting.
And
that's a fair point. Yeah.
even if you choose to watch it, you're not really losing anything. If you choose to not watch it, you're not losing anything. In the gambling, there's actually a risk for each and every individual viewer. And again, the gambling only succeeds if the viewers are actually, putting up, their own money. So that's the main distinction that I see of something being like, controversial versus something being predatory. So something like the Esports World Cup will for sure be controversial, whereas something like the gambling is more towards the predatory side of things. So in the end, people will have to make their own choice. I personally think that, it's going to come down to everyone's own personal decision, and if there's consequences from losing viewership or whatever, they're going to have to factor that in. But I would say that the predatory side of the gambling is what makes
this one particularly bad. I understand.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of what makes us have to push against it, speak against it, in my opinion.
Yeah. My fear here is that if people were emboldened by this one, and though I do think that the biggest reason why people stopped promoting it was because it was illegal and not because of the outrage, because I'm pretty sure a lot of these people knew there was going to be outrage, right? So my fear here is that we start telling players how they can make money and how they cannot make money, which, and again, we are 100% aligned in this. Yeah, I would not promote gambling. Actually, funny story, after the episode of the Spirit of the Law that I made, which for my channel standards had a lot of viewers, it was a long time ago, of course, I got an email from some shady shit. I don't even know what it was. I think they offered me, what was it, like $1,000 or something, just for a tiny thing. It's a lot of money for barely any work. I didn't even respond. Again, I don't think people should be doing this.
The reason why this is tempting for the players in general is that making a living as an esports player is really difficult, especially with something small like Age of Empires 2. So this is where I wouldn't be so quick to jump the gun. If I were, speaking now to the viewers, I wouldn't be so quick to jump the gun and judge so harshly when it comes to players trying to pick up these opportunities. Like the player side of things is that it's really difficult to earn money. Like look at the prize pools for tournaments. Like if you're not hitting top 4, you're not really getting that much money for the amount of time that you put into it. The real money, in my opinion, when it comes to the Age of Empires 2 scene, and just in general, like for other esports players as well, is the content creation side of things. Content creation pays way more than tournaments, and it doesn't rely necessarily on your tournament results. When it comes to players that are not content creators specifically, those guys have a really hard time earning money. Just saying it as frankly as possible. So I wouldn't judge so harshly when opportunities come up. Obviously, it is good to voice your opinion, but it is good to also understand their perspective. Now, last thing on this topic, my personal view, and just from my experience in general, I think that the players have way better avenues to earn money. I'm a hustler myself. Like, I'm very pro hustle. But it's just, you gotta have to put in the work. You can start, some coaching. You can start, rec reviewing. You can start like offering, viewers, you can pay to play against me. You can do certain things, put something into the community, and then you'll start building something that you can earn some extra money in between tournaments. So there, even if you still you need some money on the side, there are better avenues than what's coming in. But at the same time, there's not that many avenues. So do give them a little bit of slack and give them a little bit of grace as well.
Mm-hmm. And just to make this point clear as well, I think you have a particularly strong moral case here because you've been, people could say, oh yeah, you're rich now, so it's so easy for you to say this, but you've had this position and you've articulated it long before you're in the position that you are now. So again, coming from you, I think that's very clearly genuine and not just, virtue signal or something like that.
I appreciate that. And I will also say shout out to Margugu, who also had a position against the gambling website despite not having a huge stream. The guy can't even afford a doorknob, so you can tell it's genuine coming from him as well. So I think it's the kind of thing where whether you have a lot or whether you don't, you can still have the right stance or like the better stance on it. But again, yeah, if you are in need of some extra income or some extra sources, it could be tempting for sure.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Right. So what you said there at the end, I think it's very important. Voice your opinion, but do understand that people might feel different, and that does not make them lesser people or anything like that, right? Just because they believe something different. Okay, very quick points I wanted to still bring into the discussion. So people were worried that gambling invites match fixing, which is undeniable. I will say that unfortunately that ship has long sailed. Betting for S-tier tournaments is already available on traditional bookies. I've seen lots of people post screenshots of their winnings with S-tier bettings. Unfortunately, it's out there. Again, I'm not going to say where you can do it, but unfortunately, it's out there. Okay, so I'd like to move on from this. People can, obviously, everybody's got to have very strong feelings about this. People have voiced them, and that's fine. I love hearing all the different perspectives. The action in the Age of Empires 2 scene doesn't stop, and as we're speaking, the Thalassocracy Cup 2, or they only call it Thalassocracy 2 now, is already underway. That's a $25,000 1v1 tournament sponsored by Microsoft that features water and hybrid maps only. Liquipedia classifies it as an 8-tier tournament only, but virtually all top players will be playing in it, including you, Hera. Now, this is obviously a very special tournament because it will feature a massive rework of how naval combat works in Age of Empires 2. The rework is not yet available for the whole player base. Only participants of the tournament and content creators have access to it for now, but Dev said it will be implemented next year, and this tournament serves as a little bit of a test run for the whole thing. So, Hera, I believe you're familiar with the changes. I believe you don't like them from what I've heard. So maybe you would like to point out what are the main things that are changing here that you think will affect balance the most?
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't say I don't like them. I think I'm just concerned about a few things. But actually, I watched the Spirit of the Law video about it, and I like the idea that what they're trying to do. Like, they're trying to make water gameplay a lot more complex and a lot more nuanced, and include a lot more decision making on the water side of things. Kind of like how there's a lot of decision making on the land side of things when it comes to Age of Empires. So I'm not like for or against it. I haven't played it yet, but what I will say is what's concerning to me on the face value is that garrisoning fishing ships specifically will make it that it's really hard to snipe fishing ships and to make a raid on the water. So now, in my opinion, at least at first impression, is that if you want to win water back, you have to have enough navy to clear your opponent's navy and then go for his fishing ships, which can garrison into his docks. You have to kill his docks. So you need to win water for a considerable amount of time to be able to hurt your opponent's economy. The side raids and the sniping fish plays that are, in my opinion, very interesting currently will be a lot harder to do. So that's the biggest concern that I have personally.
Okay, so again, I'd like just to point out what the changes actually are. So the one you were highlighting there is that docks can now be garrisoned by fishing ships, and they fire arrows when garrisoned, but it's actually pretty weak. And again, I rely on the same information as the Spirit of the Laws video. I kind of love that we have like one place that everybody respects and everybody really goes, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. We believe his research. From his video, if you have 4 fire ships, that's enough to kill a dock, and you'd be losing only 1. Which again tells me it's a very, yes, it's there, you can garrison your fishing ships, but it's a very weak protection and can be very easily be dealt with very, very quick, right? So the other thing, one of the big changes here is that now we have like three, or you always had three mainline ships, but you have like three real ships, not one that just destroys itself. So you have the galley, you have the fire galley, and then you have the Hulk. And also important to notice that there's now one upgrade that upgrades all these ships. What's it called? Medium warships and then heavy warships. And the Hulk actually deals melee damage, which makes them very strong against the fire galleys, right? And then the fire galleys in turn now counter regular galleys even harder. Now this triangle appears to be broken at the moment because apparently Hulks are still pretty good against galleys if left unmicroed. You probably didn't try this yet. It's probably some of the things that need to be changed according to a lot of the pros. I don't know. Have you given this one a try?
So I haven't given it a try myself, but I think that from what I've been hearing from the other pros, the Hulk is like slightly stronger than, it kind of breaks through rock, paper, scissors. But what I will say is that even if the balance is off right now, I do like that they have the rock, paper, scissors, and then they have the demo ship on the side. That's kind of like a hidden element, a kind of like a wild card that you can also throw in, which I think is super cool. Taking the demo out of the rock, paper, scissors for me was a pretty good change, and I like that a lot. But I do want to say that like one really cool play that you can do with the garrisoning of the fishing ships is that now you can like have 4 fishing ships, right? And then if your opponent is trying to go heavy on water, you can garrison 1 fishing ship. And it puts a flag on your dock, so your opponent doesn't know if you're actually committing to more water or not.
Interesting.
So you can not invest anything extra, put a flag in your dock with 1 fish that you had working from Dark Age, and now your opponent doesn't know if you're actually going to be fighting.
That's cool,
water or
though.
not.
That's cool. That's good. That's cool.
I think it's really cool, but I think it's a huge like dynamic shift. So I think even though the arrows out of the dock is not that big of a deal, I think garrisoning fishing ships is a really big deal. So I think it's going to really change things up. For the better or for the worse, I don't know yet. But what I will say is that water gameplay currently not the most exciting. So I actually welcome the change, even if it's not going to be perfectly balanced. Like we're going to expect to see the Hulk dominate everything in Thalassocracy, most likely. But who knows? Maybe demos make a play.
You think they're not changing that before the... Well, it's already begun, right? So that would be too late to change. True.
I think it's donezo.
Yeah, now it's donezo. It's locked in. I saw one show match between Doubt and Tato, if I'm not mistaken. Tato was saying that longboats are incredibly broken right now. So Vikings, by the way, they get the fire ship now, which is also a big change. And because now we have 2 upgrades for the speed of ships. And longboats were already the fastest one, if I'm not mistaken. So now they're almost impossible to hit if you're talking about, S tier micro, some of you guys had. So again, you probably didn't try this one out, but it's something to look out for. Maybe we need to reduce the speed of the longboat. Or we're going to see more Portuguese. I'm dying. But Portuguese has disappeared from water maps. I don't know why. Now that I believe that Portuguese were widely considered a counter to the Vikings, to the Viking longboat, because of the caravels, right? So maybe you see more Portuguese now. Do you have a feeling if that's might be the case?
I think it could be for sure. I think, the Caravel does do well against the longboats historically, but I think the reason why we don't see that much Portuguese is that it's so much easier to just win water with the longboats and like dominate the Portuguese before they can even get to massing the Caravels, because they don't mass as easily as the longboats, and usually water is so snowbally that if one guy wins it, who cares if you have a better ship later? You can't even make docks. Like the guy's just not gonna let you dock anymore. So
true.
The big part about water maps is that it's just how snowbally it is. So will we see more Portuguese? Possibly, but if the snowbally nature of the longboats persists, then they're probably still going to be the go-to unit.
The go-to unit. Okay, interesting. So very quickly, I'd like to mention what all the other changes are. So now every civ has a long-range ship, which means cannon galleons are available to the meso civs too. There's speculation that next year, the next DLC will be focused on meso civs, and therefore they might get something else. And this is just a placeholder for the time being. Pure speculation. I know nothing about it, so make of it what you will. Then you now can tweak the amount, or you can tweak the ratio between gold and wood when you're trading with trade cogs. Well, trade cogs only used to have gold, I believe, so this is new. They're actually getting wood from it, and you can tweak the ratio if it's 50-50 or more or less. Sounds cool, at least. I think that. This is aimed, I believe, at all those, very grinding games where wood is run out and nobody wants to fight because once you lose your navy, you're done. I think this is cool, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love that one.
Cool. So, first of all, you're playing. This is only an A tier. You have skipped a few of A tiers. I assume you're playing this one, especially because of the water, or you're just feeling like competing again. And is this the A tier? Is it the A tier tournament you're finally going to win here?
I will be playing this one. I already signed up. I signed up mostly just because the prize pool is honestly just really high. It feels like an S tier, but it's an A
I
tier.
agree. I agree.
So I just felt like the competition is going to be solid, and it's also the new water balance. So I need to get a head start on that and see what's going on. So for me, it was a no brainer. Will I win this one? Highly unlikely, I would say.
Really?
If there's one tournament that like I'm not gonna win, it's probably the one that has a whole new balance patch for water. Like that's never been particularly my strong suit, and who knows what the new patch will bring. I think it's going to be at least a huge challenge. So I don't expect to win it, and I expect it to be very interesting and very competitive to see what people bring to the table. But I like that. The gamer in me loves to see new stuff come to the table, and I love to see like the rush to discover new strategies. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for it, but I don't want to put any high hopes there. I don't think the A tier curse is breaking on this one, boys. So maybe next year.
Let's wait for next year. Okay, so the whole tournament is already underway, as we said before. I believe it's going to be running until November 30th. That's what I remember. I actually forgot to write down, but I believe November 30th. So keep an eye out for that for sure. And I agree, $25,000, all pro players, virtually all top players are playing in it. Feels S tier worthy. I don't know if there's like a cap at 30,000 or something for Wikipedia to call this an S tier, but $25,000. Pretty good.
I think that's exactly it. It's like 30,000 is the barrier for S tier. So hypothetically, if they brought 5 more thousand to the table, maybe it got bumped to S tier. Who knows?
Which again doesn't matter, right? I mean, the tournament is the tournament. It's whatever. You can call it whatever you want. Also, funny to note, the first edition had a 3,000 prize pool. So it's been bumped, especially because the Noble Apartment Cup did not take place. So nearly distributed some of those funds towards the Thalassocracy too, right? Okay, moving on, Hera. You'll remember last episode we had the first indication that RedBull was preparing a comeback to the scene, and this time we didn't have to wait too long for the official announcement. From April 1st to April 6th, the RedBull Wololo Londinium, kind of weird name, will take place in London. And with a total prize pool of $250,000. That's $200,000 for AoE 2 and $50,000 for AoE 4. Pretty crazy numbers. Pretty crazy numbers. So fans will be able to attend the event live on April 4th and 5th in a yet unknown location, with the final event taking place on the 6th in the Royal Albert Hall, one of the most legendary concert halls in the world. Tickets go on sale on December 3rd, so make sure to write that in your calendars. Though this time it seems like there will be a lot more tickets available. I remember in all the other editions, Hera, people were running and despairing for tickets. This time around feels like it's going to be a lot. I heard 1,000 available tickets for the first 2 days, and last day of the Royal Albert Hall. I doubt we're going to sell out the Royal Albert Hall, but if we did, that would be pretty sick.
Yeah, so I think generally speaking, Red Bull events have always been 300 people, and this time we're opening the doors to thousands. So yeah, pretty big jump there for sure.
Amazing. I believe that's a sign that they think they're going to be able to at least put a lot of people in there. I don't think we're going to be able to sell out the Royal Albert Hall. That would be very, very crazy. But I think this shows some confidence. They're going to have a lot of people there.
The other Red Bulls, they sold out instantly. I think within a minute, it's all gone. So clearly there's way more demand than what was sold in the last editions. I personally think I think we're gonna get a good showing, and I would recommend to the people that can afford it and have the dates locked in, or on vacation or whatever. I highly recommend you guys go for it. Red Bull events, we don't even know if this is the last one or not, by the way. So Red Bull events, you don't want to miss them. The production is absolutely insane. And if there's even a chance that this is the last one, because again, I have no information. I'm not even playing or anything like that.
Ominous warning from Hera.
If there's even a chance that this is the last one, you just have to be there. That's just my opinion. You just have to be there. So if you're able to, you can afford it, I highly recommend you make it down there. The Red Bull events are always spectacular.
Again, write down December 3rd. It's when tickets go on sale. The whole thing takes place from April 4th to 6th for the people who are attending live, for players before that.
I didn't get an invite, so if I don't make it, I'm booking a ticket myself.
Yes,
I'll be watching.
That's the next point I want to bring up. There will be no invitations for the main event. Everybody will have to qualify either through the ladder qualifier, which will be running from January 2nd to January 18th. So that's a much shorter time frame than last time, or through the last chance qualifier, which will be played on January 24th and 25th. So, general thoughts on the whole thing, Hera. I already talked a little bit about it, but RedBull, amazing. Yeah, how hyped are you for the whole thing?
I love it. I'm so excited for the ladder qualifier. I think it's going to be a mirror fest again, unfortunately. I don't think they solved that. Yeah, I don't think, as of now, I don't think they have any ways to prevent mirror matches from happening. So if they come with a system that like there's like a draft or like bans implemented to the game, or like they prevent us flat out from going mirror, I think it's going to be a mirror fest for the most part. But that being said, because they have prizes distributed to the top 25 spots, I think it's going to be way more competitive and way more interesting for the viewers in the last few days. So I am so excited for it. I think it's going to be so much fun. I think that there's going to be a lot more people like that are playing for something, and I think that it's going to be very, very exciting to see where people finish, not just the top four, but everyone else.
One point on that though, because the maps are brand new, do you think that changes anything in terms of having mirror matches, or you think it's going to be very clear from the beginning what the best civs are?
So yeah, I think having new maps will make things a bit more interesting. I think there's going to be a lot more innovation there because, obviously nothing's set. It's not like, we know what the best civs will be necessarily, but because it's all public. So, if some guy just finds a really good strategy on a new map with a civ, everybody knows about it immediately. So it becomes very easy to just like hop on the same strats that everyone just decides is the best. Because you're going to have more players in the pool, it's going to give more weight towards creativity, I think. So not just the new maps, but also just more players, different minds and whatnot. So it's going to be a bit better than last time in that sense. But at the end of the day, I think it's still going to be the safest option to just mirror match. Because then no matter what your opponent has prepared, you're going to have the same thing. And it's going to come down to skill and execution.
I personally love no invitations. I assume someone who's at the top of the game as you are obviously enjoys it too. But you feel like this is something we should bring more often, potentially no invitations whatsoever, or because obviously this is a gamble for the tournament organizer that some of the big names perhaps don't make it. This is a huge gamble. I like it though. I love it. How do you feel about it?
I think it's good, especially for a ladder qualifier. Like you have to have no invitations for a ladder qualifier. Like last time, Tato and Viper were not invited. Were invited. So we just had like two huge names not playing ladder, which is like, that felt weird. So in the ladder qualifier, for sure has to be no invitations. Love it, despite obviously a lot more risk on my end. I think overall, I like minimal invitations. I'm not going to say no invitations for every tournament, but I think like you only give invitations to people that absolutely deserve it. If there's even a chance that some guy hasn't quite earned it, I think that guy's got to go through the qualifiers. You got to give people the chance to fraud check the big names. That's just the reality of it. Is
did you say fraud check?
Fraud check, yeah.
I love it. Fraud check. I love it.
Huge name. Is he that good? Let's find out. Run him Lewis, run him Sorakuma. Let's see what they can do. You know what I mean? So I think, minimal invitations only to those that truly deserve it. Don't be like rolling back years, rolling back the clock, and then finding like, the winner of the last edition 3 years ago, give him an invite. No, that's, only the most recent and, who really deserves it, and minimal invites. I think that's the way to go.
It does feel like they've listened to the feedback from last time, right? So we now have a much shorter ladder qualifier. Last time, what was it like 2 months or something? It was very long. And this time only 2 weeks, big difference. And the last chance qualifier gives, I believe, 4 people the chance to qualify, right? And I believe last time was only 2. I personally think this is the right way to go. I believe I expressed pretty much both these criticisms as well. Any take on this? You like it the way they've done it now?
Love it. I think it's a net positive, and like every improvement that they've made has been like based on prior feedback, and it's a step in the right direction for sure. I don't think it's 100% perfect yet. Like we'll see, but it's miles better than the first one, and I already like the first one. I like what it brings to the table, gives activity to the ladder. Personally, I already booked like 2 weeks. I'm going to stream the shit out of that, like probably 10, 12-hour days. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope that a lot of players have that same mentality, because then we're going to see like 12 to 16-hour days of just like 30 to 40 top players going at it. Maybe more, maybe like top 100 all going at it, and just seeing where people place. I think it's going to be super exciting as a player and as a viewer. So yeah, I love it. Huge fan, great improvements, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Those last few days were so awesome. MBL decided, should I play, should I not play? Him losing his mind. That was such an awesome
MBL
time.
commentary, absolutely hilarious. Like he was like, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have played. Like, what am I gonna do now?" Like, it's hindsight bias fueled through the roof. Like,
amazing.
It's hilarious.
Like I'm so nervous. One thing I love about MBL, he does not hide the way he's feeling.
No, absolutely not.
He's gonna show you theaters. Now, I remember being a little bit critical of the potential for example, and I'm trying to create a segue to the next topic here, Hera. I remember being critical of the fact that I was afraid maybe some people are going to throw matches, or maybe some people are going to play on several accounts, which again brings me now to the last topic here at the podcast. And so as if gambling wasn't bad enough, we now also have a cheating scandal engulfing our scene. The player Vivi from Argentina, who was participating in the Titans League Bronze division, has been caught playing the tournament under 2 different accounts. So apparently both Tristan and World Edge have proved beyond any reasonable doubt that this is true, and therefore he's now been officially banned for 3 years from participating in any World Edge sponsored events. Now, this is obviously tragic, Hera, but I gotta say also a little bit funny. I mean, the first suspicion that came around, that was raised, was because he was supposed to play himself in the tournament, and obviously he had to forfeit with one of his accounts, which is very funny to think about. And also Tristan made a video about this. I'm gonna link it. Apparently when Tristan confronted him with the evidence, he panicked. Vivi panics, and he logs in with both accounts at the same time, so that he shows like, yeah, bro, it cannot be me. See, both of us are online. The thing is, that was like the first time in over a year or whatever that both accounts had been online at the same time, and they checked all of the logs. World's Edge, they checked all of it. So it's pretty obvious he's trying to create an alibi for himself to say, nah, bro, see, this is me. Apparently, he denied all the accusations at first, but then I saw yesterday a tweet from Nacho where he said he spoke to him on the phone, and he admits that it was just a lie that caught up to him, and you can imagine. I can imagine how he's feeling. But yeah, give me your first thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, so, okay, I mean, I'm laughing a lot here, but mostly just because of the circumstances of having to play yourself.
It's surreal,
and then, like,
bizarre.
That's just objectively hilarious, obviously, but getting a bit more serious now, because obviously it is a big deal. What I will say is I've actually met Vivi in real life, and he's a decent guy. Like, he's actually a decent guy, and doesn't strike me as a guy to do this. It's very possible he just got tempted by some idea popped in his head. He thought he can earn a little extra. Maybe he can get like some freer rounds. Who knows? He obviously got himself into a horrible position. Definitely, not something you wanna be doing. Obviously, condemn the cheating side of things there. But yeah, I'm honestly just shocked by the whole thing. I can't believe he thought he'd get away with that. Firstly, and I'm really surprised that it happened in the Bronze League as well. Like, I feel like we're cheating for very low stakes there, which feels weird to me, but I'm not really sure what's going on in the Bronze League, like the prize distributions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like it's a huge risk for very little reward there.
Agreed.
And yeah, I'm really shocked by the whole
thing. And he's
a
great player, if I'm not mistaken, right? He's a really good player.
I would think that he's a favorite for the Bronze League. I just don't understand why you would need to do this.
Yeah, very puzzling to me too. And one of the things that increases the stakes here is that he's not just anybody. He's actually the founder of the Dark Side Clan, which is a clan without a lot of well-known names. We're talking about Huang, Ozone, Nacho, and others. And this is why this type of cheating is so pernicious, because now you start raising suspicion for people who probably are innocent. Did this team know about this? Did anyone else know about this? You start getting these questions that do not help him, do not help anybody. Such a pity, really. 3 years ban. Is this fair? Is this too lenient?
I think it's very harsh, but I think you have to be harsh, because this is blatant cheating to next level. He's not just cheating in his own games. He is completely ruining the tournament, basically. Like the Bronze League, the bracket's completely different. Whoever he beat with his fake account is now getting scammed of a fair match. The seeding is different because I don't know if his second account, Don Cabron or whatever. I don't think that's going to reflect his actual skill level. It's going to probably be lower. So he's completely ruined that bracket and basically that league. So it's cheating to a very high degree, in my opinion. So I think the 3 years is actually appropriate, despite being a harsh punishment. And I also love that World's Edge got involved to crack down on this, because I'm all for competitiveness and trying your best and really pushing boundaries, but I'm super against cheating. You got to crack down on that. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. So again, this gives me hope that something like this is not going to happen in the ladder qualifier, just because we now have, you have proof of action. You have clear evidence that Microsoft will crack down on this kind of thing. I do have to wonder, because I mean, if you really want to, cheating is actually so easy. If you really put your mind to it, this type of cheating.
I'm surprised you say that, because I've been saying that as well. I'm happy to see someone else bring that to the table. Like, cheating is a lot easier than you'd think. I will say, like, a few years ago, we had way less anti-cheat than we have now. Like, for example, now in S-tier tournaments, at least, when you play around, if it's online, if it's a LAN, cheating is a lot harder. But if it's online, you have to be invoiced with an admin. All right. So there's always 2 minutes delay. The admin can ask you questions like share your screen at any point. You can't have other people on voice. There's a lot more anti-cheat.
Wait, that's happening for every single S-tier tournament? That's crazy.
Like quarterfinals onwards for every S-tier, at least like to my knowledge, online, that's happening. So like we're really cracking down on it. But like 4 or 5 years ago, when DE was first coming out, we had like Voobly times and whatnot. Everyone's like, people are such nice people. Like, oh, we love the scene. No one's gonna cheat. And I was just sat here thinking like, yeah, people are great here, but like we can't underestimate what.
Let's not be naive. Let's not be naive.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thought of earning a little bit of extra money and cheating, and the low chance of getting caught. That's very tempting for players. It's very tempting for people in general. So I'm actually really happy that we had an incident like this that was cracked down on, and I hope that we can implement as much anti-cheat as possible. Like that's going forward.
In a way, that's probably the best thing that could happen when you think about the ladder qualifier now for RedBull, because I think people really are going to think 1,000 times before they do something like this. Yeah, Hera, 100%. Dude, I appreciate your time, bro. This is all we got for today. Enjoy your rest, bro. Try to get some rest. Get your schedule in place for some more streaming. Looking forward to it. And thanks for taking the time, bro.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Thank you to viewers for watching the podcast. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I had a great time making it.
For sure. And you guys know what you have to do. If you did enjoy the podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll be back very, very soon. See you, everybody.